Hi everyone, my name's David Jackson, and I'm the author of this group of stories which are called the Anita and the Elephant Trilogy. The first story, quite aptly, is called Anita and the Elephant. How did it start? Well, I went on a trip to Rajasthan in 2016, met some of the descendants of the actual Maharajas, the Maharaja of Jaipur, the Maharaja of Jodhpur. So I realised then that actually the history of this area was incredible. The nearest analogy I could actually ever bring to it is the Wars of the Roses. But instead of this being Yorkshire and Lancashire and Britain, it was Rajasthan. I don't know how big Rajasthan is. It wouldn't surprise me if it's the same size as England, for example. So it's a massive place with a tremendous history. Now, this story is a fantastical story. It's not really a history of kind of like Rajasthan, but it's got some of the characters that were in that area. So where did it come from? Why did I actually think of a princess called Anita, and why did I ever think that there might be an elephant involved? Well, I guess wherever you go to in India, you always come across elephants, and you also realise how revered they are. And but you don't. As a Westerner, you don't generally feel, you don't really know how important they are. It's only when you start writing a story like this that you actually start to feel the power of the elephant coming through you almost. So, in a way, Anita and the Elephant was a bit of a. There's a female, there's a heroine in it who's the main lead. She's got a servant who's very, very powerful. The mother, the father. There's a love interest. There's a lot of action in it. There's also a lot of action in my stories. You probably will find if you ever read any of them. But after this, I thought, well, look, that will be the end of it. But then it went on. And basically, you ended up with Anita, Heart of War. The story started to develop, or the characters started to develop. You had this assassin. You had one of the lesser queen's kind of guards who was defending her, and so there are all kinds of subplots and sub stories going on. It's almost like a mini Game of Thrones going on here, a real Bollywood blockbuster, a massive story raging across kind of like this time, 1540, 1541, at the time of Humayun, and at the time of basically the Rajputs, the Hindus, basically kind of like almost like defending themselves against the rise of the tremendous Mughal Empire, which was Akbar and the actual kind of like very, very powerful dynasty that established itself until whether it was 1840s or 1850s, I think it was, or even 1950s. I think it's the 1850s. So for something like 500 years, you actually have this Mughal Empire basically reigning in northern India, and this is set round about the start of it. The final of the books is called Queen's Fall. One of the great games invented in India, of course, is chess. And you start to realise now why chess was invented in India, and you see the different pieces, and you see how elephants might have been important. You also realise why Alexander the Great might have actually tried to get to India. You realise why he faced kind of great opposition when Porus had elephants in his army. You see also that kind of like almost like the endless kind of like scheming that went on in Rajasthan and in this story, and the complexity of everything. So it's a fun story. It's got lots of action. There is an element of reality. There are a number of real people in it, but there's also a heck of a lot of fiction in it. So it's been primarily done for people to enjoy themselves, people who like a good yarn. Definitely puts females, I think, into a very, very prominent position, because yet again, in a lot of my stories, I feel that women have got a more powerful role, a more powerful part than possibly past authors have actually given them. So not surprisingly, you've got Anita and the elephant, you've got Queen's Fall. There's hardly any mention of men or things like this. In fact, in many ways, the men in this story are really the pawns, and the Queen, not surprisingly, on the chessboard. I don't think I've ever really ever thought that is the king the most powerful piece on the chessboard? No, it's actually the Queen. She seems to be able to do anything. The king just stays stationary. And this is what you find in this story. That the Maharaja is relatively kind of like benign. He's hardly doing anything. It's the queens who are actually causing total mayhem. It's their daughter that's causing mayhem. It's their love interests who are kind of like getting, and it's generally the fellows around them who are dying in the cause, you know what I mean? But they're actually pulling the strings. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the story. You know, obviously elephants in India, extremely sacred, tremendous, beautiful animals. So it's fairly clear to me that kind of like basing a story around kind of like people and elephants is a good thing, and I hope you think it is as well.